Hello, dear listener. Welcome to my channel, where stories are so scary that only the bravest and most fearless can listen. If you are sure that you are brave enough, subscribe to my channel and I will question your bravery. But before you do, let me warn you, these stories are not for the faint of heart. They are not for people who scare easily. They are for people with ice in their veins and darkness in their hearts. If you are one of those people, then I welcome you. Come closer, listen closely, and prepare yourself for the horror that awaits. I'm a 17-year-old female. I'm not timid, though I can get a little awkward if I don't really know you. Now onto the story. This happened last year before I turned 16. So I'm a 15-year-old surfing on Facebook when I see a post from someone I know that lives a town over. Now I have never hung out with her, but we have spoken on Messenger. I'll call her Lucy. I messaged her and tried to cheer her up, as her post was very negative about herself and her outlook on life. I mean, I've been there, so when I try to make someone feel better, that's a nice thing to do, right? Well, Lucy claimed me to be her best friend right afterwards. She said we were going to hang and do fun stuff. I was kind of weirded out, but then again, I had been really lonely, so I just went with it. She wanted me to spend the night. Now, my mom was leery about it, but she knew I needed friends and that I can't be isolated all the time. She gave in and told me to ask her where she lived. When I did, I was surprised to learn that she lived in a trailer park. I never hung out with someone who lived there. She was ashamed, but honestly, I thought it was kind of cool. I'd regret that later. I get there and my mom says she wants to meet her mom. Well, her mom never comes out. So my mom leaves and guess who comes outside? Lucy's mom, Rena. She didn't care that I was there, or what she said apparently, because she went. Guess she couldn't wait long enough. I got a little ticked over it, seeing as we waited over 15 minutes for her to come outside. No joke either. We get in, I lay my stuff down, and for the first few hours everything went alright. That is until she wanted me to go with her and her friends to beat up some guys. Yep, guys. She was on a voice call screaming at them, saying we were gonna get a ride and come over there. Then you guys are gonna regret it. That's my herd. Come ahead. We have guns. This is when I get scared. I text my boyfriend at this point in time and he was livid. He wasn't able to come get me for some reason, so I just told him I'd see if he'll calm down. It didn't. Threats coming across and back and forth, getting more violent as they come and go. 10 more minutes go by and she finally hangs up. She calms at this point. Well, I wouldn't say calm, just blank. She turned her head to me and just slowly asked, "I'm going to a friend's. Are you coming or staying here?" Obviously, I said I was going. I wasn't trying to have someone show up there while she was at a friend's. Her mother drove us to the house, which was, of course, in the more dangerous part of the town. It was approximately 15 to 20-minute walk back to the house. We go up, knock, and I heard a lock turn and a face looking through the crack of the door. She says some name and he shuts the door, only to hear more locks unlocking until we were finally let inside. Right when I get inside, you can smell it. Horrible, nauseating, even rotting smell. He locks the door back and tells us to go upstairs. So we do, and here are two more large men sitting on the couch, smoking. We sat on the kitchen floor, as it's a very small apartment. Now these men see me and I'm automatically uncomfortable. They start asking me questions like, what's my name? How old am I? How I know Lucy? Well, I'm being interrogated. Lucy is on the phone texting people, leaving me to entertain these guys. Of course, they ask us if we would smoke with them. Lucy did, but I didn't. I'm no goody two-shoes, but in that situation, something was off and I could feel it. Lucy decides that she wants to walk to Dairy Queen and told the guys to keep me comfy with a little wink. I nonchalantly texted my dad and told him, text me back ASAP, saying you're picking me up because of a family emergency. Do not ask questions, do not make it seem suspicious, and send the text and start heading this way. He does, and I tell Lucy, where in return I get an aggravated look. She wanted to know why, seeing as I haven't been there an hour. Of course, I told her my father texted me saying there's a family emergency, which I showed her so she knew I wasn't pulling a leg. She didn't ask questions, just said, "Come back," and turned around to go sit on the couch. This is when my idiot self realized I still have to make it to our trailer alone. I'm in a town that I had never been to, and I need my belongings from the trailer because I was not planning on coming back, ever. I put on my GPS, and what do you know? It's low. Before I step a foot out the yard, a car pulls up real close to me on the curb, causing me to stop. I recognized it. It was the car that I saw coming into the building, and the guy that unlocks the door must have gone right back out it after locking the door again. He asked me where I'm going, and I quickly say I'm going to the hospital for an emergency, and that I'll be back later. His furious face was replaced with a suspicious expression, but all he said was, "You better," while pulling away and pulling in their driveway. At this point, I'm running, scrambling, looking at my GPS and trying not to get lost. I make it to the trailer park, but it's all a big circle. I'm frantically looking for a trailer, scared out of my mind. There are men and women on their porch looking at me like I don't belong there, and they're right, I don't. My phone has died at this point, so I would have to go look at the numbers and go from there. Will I find it? My parents are already in the driveway trying to call my phone. I walk up and hug my mom, telling her I'm sorry. For whatever reason, I had to make me think that this was my fault. I tried the door to the trailer and it's unlocked. I go in, get my stuff, and get out. Over the next few days, I get messages from her all throughout the day and night talking about me coming over again, or her finding out my address so we can hang out. I blocked her, only get texts from other people about her. I still do to this day, but I do my best to ignore it. I was warned, was told she was a psycho. I just thought she was upset and needed a friend. This happened in the fall of 2017. My sister Gigi was in high school. My parents took a trip out of country, so I was in charge of my sister. I temporarily lived in my parents' house while doing so. I took her to school and back, picked her up when she was at a friend's or boyfriend's house, and picked her up after her church meetings. I was told she started going to regular church on Sundays with her boyfriend and his family, which I'm happy that she's into. We grew up Catholic, but don't often go to church after we moved to the United States. But also, she was going to another church at nights with a friend of hers. I grew up with Sunday Mass, and that's it. So the thought of spending extra time and free time going back to church was weird. But if she wanted to grow up as a super extra religious person, who am I to stop her? On Monday, she went to school and hung out with her boyfriend. I picked her up from her boyfriend's house, no big deal. Tuesday, she went to night church after school with her friend. I was told that they would get a ride from her friend's mom. She was supposed to be home at 9 p.m. Came in a little late at around 9:40. I asked why, and she said they were preparing for a retreat that Saturday. Seemed alright of an excuse, and I trusted her, so no big deal. Wednesday to Thursday, mostly normal. One day she went home after school and we hung out. Another day she was hanging out with friends. One of these days, she was hanging out with her boyfriend and some friends, and she asked me if she could go to church. This would be the second time going to the night church in the week. I remember thinking, when I was in high school, hanging out with friends did not cross with spending free time at church. They ended up not going, which relieved me a bit. At this point, I was getting weird vibes from the night church. Friday, day before the retreat, her plans were to go to night church after school and come home at 9 p.m. My plans were to hang out with friends and be home by 9 p.m. as well. I'm driving back home a little late and text her to not worry her. Got no reply. Waited a bit and texted her again. No reply. Called her. No answer. At this point, I was hoping she was already home and for some reason went to bed early. No. House was empty. I kept calling, texting, panicking. Around 10:45 p.m., almost 2 hours after she was supposed to be home, she calls me. She says that they are still in church preparing for the retreat, and that she wasn't allowed to have cell phones on. I'm normally the cool older brother, but I lost it a bit. Not towards her, but just got to the point. I'm coming to get you. text me the address. I don't care what you're doing, I'm coming to get you. I got a text with the address and drove to get her. I was a bit calm now that I heard her voice, but I was angry at the place. Once I got there, some lady was outside waiting for me, and she says, "Sorry for the trouble, we're preparing for tomorrow, that's why Gigi is still here." "No, that's fine, I'm just in charge of Gigi for the week, and our parents wanted Gigi home by 9 p.m. every day, so can you go get her, please?" "Well, Gigi can't come out right now. The sermon, or whatever she said, it's not over yet." At this point, I lost whatever patience I had left. "You bring out Gigi right now, or I'm calling the cops for kidnapping. I'm her legal guardian, and she's under 18. I don't know the law well, but that's what I said. This sparked a light under her feet. The lady started walking inside and invited me inside. "Do you want to come in? You're welcome to. Just go get my sister out." The lady walks inside, and a moment later, my sister and the lady come out. The lady is giving my sister some documents and a shirt and some information about tomorrow's retreat. In the car ride home, I'm trying to choose my words carefully when my sister goes, "I don't want to go to that retreat tomorrow. Can I stay home and say you aren't letting me?" "Yes." "Turn me into the bad guy, I don't care. You don't have to do anything you don't want to." Turns out, everything up until tonight was normal church stuff. Tonight, they turned it up to 11. People all around were seizing, yelling, throwing up. They were feeding people something which was causing this, and the smoke and air smelled funny, according to my sister. I kept asking my sister if they fed her something, but she said no. They weren't supposed to feed my sister anything until she goes to her first retreat. The retreat, which the night church said they paid for her, making it seem like they were generous, was supposed to be an initiation or commitment to the place. According to my sister's friend, who already went to the initiation, they gave you something that makes you sick, represents the evil leaving you, and you feel sick for a week or two. The people there tonight were scary and didn't look right in the head. I read the stuff that they gave my sister, all culty stuff, BS. The place looked like a house that was made to look like a small church too. I also later found out from my aunt that their church name didn't make any sense, at least from a Catholic point of view. And they weren't listed or officially a church by any legal standard. Needless to say, my sister never went back to that church. Yeah. Two summers ago, my now ex-girlfriend, Kat, and I were sitting next to the edge of this cliff at a beach on New York's North Shore overlooking the water, with a very nice view of Connecticut's coastline. It was super dark, the only real light source being the full moon above us. We were just chilling, looking up at the clear night sky, looking for shooting stars, one of our favorite nighttime activities. The whole reason we always went to this beach, especially the part we were at, was because no one ever went there. It's pretty isolated and hard to find unless you're really searching for it. You have to walk through a trail for about 10 minutes or so before it opens up into a small area free of foliage above the main part of the beach below. It was a great little spot to smoke in peace. We were having a good time, talking about stupid stuff and just hanging out. Then I heard this mumbling, followed by twigs snapping behind us. I put my index finger up, signaling for Kat, my girlfriend, to be quiet, and I turned around and looked into the dark foliage for about a minute, but there was nothing. It was a little weird because it was around 1 a.m., but I thought maybe it was just some other people exploring the trails. No big deal, right? And then I heard it again, that same mumbling followed by twigs snapping, closer this time. I quickly turned again, and there was a dude standing right at the edge of the tree line, which is about 10 feet away from us. He had long dark hair, no shirt or shoes on, just jeans and a weird tribal-looking necklace. It was so dark and his hair was so long and thick that it shrouded his face, so I couldn't really make out any distinct features. He was kind of whispering, but it was a really quiet night. There was no wind and no waves crashing below us. His voice made the hairs on my arm stand up. It was really monotone but soft, and he was speaking French. I don't speak fluent French, but I understand a good amount due to the fact that I spent 10 years of my life on the southeast border of England, right by the Channel Tunnel. So, I learned some in school and also dealt with a lot of French tourists when I worked at a fish and chip shop. I'm fairly certain that he said something that roughly translated to, "Are you afraid of death?" Maybe I didn't hear him right. It's been almost 4 years since I moved back to New York by then. So I responded, asking in French, "What?" Again in French, he asked, "Are you afraid of death?" Nope, I definitely heard him correctly. I stood up, facing him. My eyes adjusted to the darkness behind him a little, where I saw 2 more people on either side of him. A girl in some kind of white dress. Cliché, I know. And another shirtless guy slightly further back. They were just standing there. I didn't say anything. I just crouched down to Kat, who had remained silent the whole time, keeping my eyes fixed on these weirdos. Grabbing her hand, bringing her up to a standing position, and slowly walked us towards a much less steep part of the cliff, where we were able to carefully climb down towards the main area where I had parked my car, avoiding the trail, all the while constantly looking over my shoulder. I was visibly shaken by the whole ordeal. I'm not a small dude, I'm 6'4", but my girlfriend was about 4'11", little Latina chick, and I had left my knife at home, so I wasn't taking any chances. Kat kept asking me what the guy was saying, but I didn't want to creep her out too much, so I just told her I didn't know and that they were probably just tourists asking for directions or something. She wasn't buying it, but she eventually dropped it once we got in the car. I later did some research on that area and found out that only 5 years prior, there were reports of illicit and strange activity occurring there on behalf of a self-proclaimed pagan cult, focusing on weird druidic practices originating all the way from France. I'm thankful I didn't take the time to truthfully answer that French-speaking man's question. I'm a female who is in a long-term, long-distance relationship with my boyfriend in England. You can call me Ginger, and my boyfriend is Brandon. These incidences still continue, and I will update them if anything major happens. Any help offered with the whole situation would also be greatly appreciated. Since around August or September of 2017, Brandon and I have been continuously harassed and stalked by these online cyber stalkers. We absolutely have no idea who they are or exactly why they are after us, and it's clear that there are multiple people out to get us. It started with my boyfriend getting a message on PlayStation Network from someone he used to know back in early 2017. A person that tried getting with him and an obvious catfish. They told him that they were going to make his life miserable. We tried brushing it off and thought that they were making empty threats because they couldn't have their way with him. However, this is not the case, and for a long time now, this person has been doing everything they can to separate us and make us suffer. They would use these IP hacking programs to boot Brandon off of his internet, and would occasionally do it to me. It would only happen to me when I was playing a specific game, so I avoided it for a while and tried changing up my IP address. Brandon would also get the occasional message from this person saying things like, "Your girlfriend doesn't love you and never will. She just cheated on you." Or, "End your life now, you piece of trash." Just the typical bullcrap that would come from some lowlife hiding behind a screen. However, as time passed, the harassment only got worse. It even escalated to the point of this person having other people join in with them, saying Brandon's real name, street address, and family names to us. It then got up to me where they told Brandon my street address to him, which I had never told anyone about, not even him. We would also have people come to us on Skype, Kick, or PlayStation Network with screenshots of us supposedly cheating, which still happens occasionally. Only screenshots that were real was when my boyfriend played along to one of them to see if they would admit their plans to him, but they didn't. He told me they had sent a few Photoshop images of scantily clad girls saying it was them, and to show the images to me so I would get jealous. He did indeed show them and pointed out how the waistline of one of them was uneven. The poor edits were quite noticeable. From there, it kept getting worse and worse. They would pretend to be us to an entire community throughout different accounts and try making us look like they were against each other. One of them even got through Brandon's PlayStation account and pretended to be him to me, saying that he had a new girlfriend and hates me or whatever. Recently, however, my boyfriend has completely lost his account with all the details changed, and he's had to use alternate accounts. He also lost his main Skype account, but has simply made a new one. I have no idea if they plan on attacking me, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I've been trying to ignore them recently, even though I used to reply to them when they sent me messages, but I'm doing my best to stay strong through all of this. As of right now, my boyfriend has been completely taken off of his net for now. Again. It was off for a month beforehand, and we almost separated due to that, and some other mistakes that I will not go into detail with. However, I can say that we patched things up. Now this is a bit off topic, but it connects with the rest of the cyberstalkers. Brandon had an ex-friend he knew in person for years, a guy we will call Ivan. He suddenly decided to turn against us simply because me and Brandon were dating and used to argue a lot. This guy legitimately had no reason to hate us, but hates me most of all, even though I did nothing wrong to him. We were good friends to him and tried putting up with his toxicity for almost 2 years. I knew from the moment I met this guy that he was incredibly shady, but I tried ignoring that gut feeling for the sake of Brandon. I did let him know that he was completely toxic towards us, so he eventually broke off the friendship. However, while Brandon's net was off for a month, Ivan did let me and him talk when I asked about him, which I found to be quite strange. When Brandon came back and the three of us were playing a game together, I beat Ivan and he suddenly turned against me once more. I had enough of this waste of space and told him to never speak to me again, even blocking him, but not before sending him messages of how he had burned his bridges with me. This guy was straight to Brandon and told him how much he hated me, even saying how horrible of a person he thinks I am. He was basically just calling me everything under the sun. Ivan even threatened to end my life if I ever went to go see my boyfriend in England. He just went on other accounts to try turning me against Brandon by coming up with lies about how he cheated on me, but I just ignored them. However, Ivan then said he was going to go to work with our stalkers and tried to break us apart. This had me thinking that he may have been secretly letting out some information about Brandon to our cyberstalkers since he knew his address and everything, so I wouldn't put it past him if he was one of them. One thing to note is that Ivan held Brandon up against the wall and yelled at him just for talking to me. He's a seriously violent and mentally disturbed person. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if he got sent to prison for something terrible. It wasn't until my boyfriend's internet allowed for consistent communication between us did my boyfriend finally come clean about what has been happening. And this is where things have gotten incredibly strange, and I don't know where to take it. He told me about a few months prior to the various stalkers and threats that he come into contact with Ivan through a mutual friend at his work. He says that Ivan led him to join an online community that operated in his local area. They were known for their open society promiscuity, and my boyfriend came clean that his loneliness led him to succumb to participate in this community. It wasn't until a month into the experience did he start to feel very sketched out by the strange practices the group would participate in, such as animal sacrifices and strange rituals, that he decided to abandon the group altogether. But persistence and use of blackmail has now placed him in an even more terrifying position. He cried throughout all of this sudden revelation to me, and I truly am in shock as I write this. He's lost my trust, but my fear for his safety leads me to wonder, what should I do now? My name is Morgan and I'm a 17-year-old male from North Wales, UK. Me and my friends, 5 of us in total, we're going to the castle close to our house to do a Ouija board. We all live on the same street, so we met at my house and then walked the 3 miles to the castle. It's now 11 p.m. and it's completely dark. We have to walk in the woods and up some very steep inclines. It would take us an hour to reach the tower where we were planning to do the Ouija board. So to the story, we were about 15 minutes from the tower. My best friend Cheryl tells us all to stop and listen. Just faintly in the distance, we can hear talking, we can smell smoke. Cheryl tells us to walk on, but slowly and quietly. After about 15 minutes, we were about 50 feet from the tower, and now we can hear full-blown chanting. We can see a fire coming from the tower, and I can see a white figure facing towards this fire. I tell everyone to stand behind me and be absolutely quiet. We tiptoe towards the tower. We are now at the entrance, and I peek my head around and see about 10 hooded figures around the fire, and what looks like a dead dog being burned on the fire. After about 1 minute of staring in shock, one of the hooded figures spots me. He alerts the other figures, and before they started to come after me, I calmly walked away to my 4 absolutely terrified friends and quietly said, "Run." So we did. We ran for our lives. I could hear the figures hot on our backsides. I started to cry. They were not saying anything. They were just bolting for us, fully covered in white hooded robes with 2 black holes where the eyes would be. After about what felt like 5 hours of chase, but was only about 5 minutes, we came to the main path leading out of the castle. I looked behind me one more time and saw the last few figures walking back towards the tower. We still had another 45 minutes walking down the path leading through the woods and out of the castle. Presuming we were safe, we sat down, had a cigarette and a beer each, and my fiancé David and Cheryl both went on to tell us that the hooded figures were probably a cult. They explained what a cult was, and the hair stood up on the back of my neck. I had never been so disgusted and terrified in my life, but we soon changed the subject to lighten the mood and eventually set back off. We finally arrived back at the entrance of the castle. We decided to get a taxi home, and I phoned the police. I told the police about what we all saw, and they said that they would look into it. The next day, we received a follow-up phone call from the police, saying that they went to the tower, found a fire pit, with the remains of the dog in the middle of it. They never found any trace of the group. To this day, we haven't been back to that castle, and we don't plan on doing so. Years ago, as a 17-year-old, I worked at a deli in a grocery store. This grocery store was in a small town, so it seems as if we had a very concentrated amount of crazy people. I was really naive and did not know how to say no to people, so I got into a lot of perplexing situations there. For our uniforms, we had to wear white button-up blouses, black pants, black aprons, and a huge name tag. The name tag not only had our first names, but our last names as well. My first name is slightly unique, but my last name is uncommon. Basically, I'm really easy to find. You search my name on Google or Facebook, and I'm the only one, as of now, that pops up. I was always really uncomfortable with people seeing my full name in such a public job. An older man with big glasses, white beard, and red plaid coat came in one day asking for something small. As I was dishing it up, I did my usual chatter with the customer. He was asking me a lot of really uncomfortable personal questions, but I wasn't quite catching on that he was getting creepy. I was a senior and shared that with him. He asked me a few more things, and he was on his merry way. I promptly forgot about him. He came back in 1 week later and asked me if he could take a picture of me. I didn't know what to think of it, but I smiled and said that I belonged behind the camera, not in front of one. He had a nervous laugh and disappeared. About 15 minutes later, a coworker ran up to me and asked me if I just saw this old guy in a red plaid coat take a picture of me from behind this glass window we had by the entrance. It was really creepy, but I let it go. About 2 weeks after this, he came back in and waited until I was free to speak to him. He told me that his name was something like, this is not his real name or legal name, it's one he made up, Emmanuel Lamb Branch. He asked me if I would like to go out to his home out in the country every Thursday night and be his hostess for his readings that he had. He said he wanted the beautiful woman to greet his guests and be admired by his side. I told him thank you, but I worked 2 jobs and I valued my few nights a week that I had off and would rather spend them with my family. In trying to convince me, he told me that he had a community of people that lived on his land, and they were all very peaceful. I turned him down again and moved to a customer waiting for me. Later on that week, Emmanuel Lamb Branch came back in with some flyers. Apparently he had been going door to door and handed them to me. Told me he was waiting for me and left. I read the literature on my break. One was a typed out love poem. It was very sexual. The next was some political flyer. I could see he was running for president or something. The third absolutely creeped me out. I wish I still had it to type it out for you word for word. Basically, it was informing people of the new kingdom, and how Emmanuel Lamb Branch was the leader of the new kingdom, and that he had a bride waiting for him. His bride was me. He put my full stinking name in there and explained how he'd commissioned a local artist to paint a large portrait portraying me as his bride. Apparently it was sitting above his fireplace. He said we were to have descendants who would rule the new kingdom. That was it. I'd had enough of him. I went home crying and asked my mom what to do. She immediately called the police and they issued a restraining order on him. They took all of the papers from him and talked to him. He told them I wanted to be his bride and was waiting until I was 18. Disgusting. Emmanuel Lamb Branch still came into the store that I worked at for the next month. He would stand over by the magazines and would just watch me for hours. It made me nervous. Finally, a coworker alerted the store manager, who told him he could never come back inside. No, he just stood outside the door. Apparently that summer he was jailed for some violent behavior. And thankfully, I never saw that would-be cult leader again. Years ago, I thought I joined an amazing church. I was never a Jesus freak, and in fact used to make fun of them as a kid, referring to them as Bible thumpers. During college, that changed. I felt the need to form a relationship with God after the deaths of close family members. It couldn't have been better timing because I ended up at a new school and a new job where I eventually met Joanna. Joanna was an instant friend. We clicked right away. We shared a passion for music, were studying the same major, and could talk for hours about anything. Joanna and I hung out for about 6 months before I started to notice anything out of the ordinary. Basically, I would never see her on the weekends because she told me she devoted them to her church and youth group. I didn't think that was strange, but I was curious and asked her what religion she was. She told me she was non-denominational, and then quickly changed the subject. Joanna started showing up to work less and less, and she started missing classes. She was always tired when she did show up or looked completely drained or out of it. Rumors around school and work was that she was doing drugs. I knew that was false because both of us had a disdain for drugs and others who partied hard like that. Joanna had less and less time to spend with friends, so I rarely would see her. After about a month like this, she called me out of the blue to go out to Denny's. We met up and she pulled out her phone. She showed me a YouTube video of a recent volunteer activity she did with her church group. Joanna explained to me that she volunteered a lot with her church and it took up a lot of her time. The video quality was excellent for a church video and it played almost like a short film. The passion she had talking about all the good deeds they do and how much fun it was piqued my interest. I asked her the name of the church. Again, she did not disclose but said non-denominational Christian. She asked me to come with her right now because it was better than I see it myself. I found that strange because it was 10 p.m. at night on a Wednesday. I went into a small office or warehouse-looking building. I found it strange that the church wouldn't have any signs or pictures of Jesus in the space. It looked like a child's daycare or learning center. Immediately, women rushed over and hugged me. It was unreal. I later learned I got love-bombed. Before I knew it, I was sitting in a corner of a room with a woman slightly older and Joanna. She had a dry erase board and started teaching me about the Bible. The Bible study made sense, but soon after, she asked me if I was ready to be baptized. It was now around 11:30 p.m. and I felt some sort of obligation. I had no ride home, had no idea where I was, and these happy, shiny people were cooking for me and teaching me the Bible. How could I say no? I was hesitant, but the intensity grew and I could feel the attitude start to change to desperation. They promised it would only take a few minutes and that God was watching, and I may die if I deny being baptized after learning the truth. So, like an idiot, I agreed and was rushed into a bathroom to get changed into a white robe. When I let them know I had changed, they ushered me into a bathtub, where a small Asian man walked in. Apparently he was a pastor. He told me not to be nervous and that the water would be warm. I knelt in the shower with the lights dim while the rest of the women came in wearing veils over their head, singing in some strange monotone voices. I heard him baptize me in the name of some Asian god, and that's when I got freaked out. Once I left, I was baffled and nervous. It was such an intense feeling. I was still stuck there as Joanna had driven me away out into another county, so I had no idea how to leave. They made me some more food and later told me that the name I was baptized under would later be explained to me when I returned to study more. Everyone kept telling me how I was part of the family now. I ended up returning and being pretty heavily brainwashed by this group to the point where I felt like they were my family. I did things I'm not proud of. I helped recruit people and spent hours and days and weeks there. I later found out that Joanna was just a recruiter, which I would soon turn out to be. Someone who just forms fake friendships to bring more young women into this group. I escaped, mentally, and deprogrammed and defellowshipped. It was a truly haunting experience that no young female should go through. I still see Joanna from time to time with her vicious wolf pack, preaching to women on campus and malls. I usually hide or run the other way, and I hope I never end up back in that hole again. I own this property in the countryside of Alabama. It's in the middle of nowhere with 60+ acres. It has an abandoned house, barn, and greenhouse. The barn and house are close to each other and the greenhouse is far into the woods. Me and my friend were setting up film equipment in the house because we were going to film a video the next day. We had to sleep over for some reason I forget. I didn't want to sleep in the truck, so we slept inside the house. My friend wakes me up and tells me he's getting really weird feelings about all of this, so we go sleep in my truck. I fall asleep and we get in the truck and my friend is still awake. He told me it was around 4 in the morning and he saw 7 to 8 people in hoods and robes. He said they looked around the house for a bit, probably to see if anybody was there because they saw our equipment in my truck. One of the guys stared directly at my friend in the car, but the windows are tinted, so the guy had a hard time seeing my friend. The guy stops investigating my truck and goes back with the group. My friend tried to wake me up, but I guess I wasn't. Morning came and my friend was still very sleepy from not catching any sleep. We go into the house to check on everything. The lights are smashed, papers are burned, umbrellas are broken. We found candles around the house, a cat nailed to a wall with a pentagram around it. I was very shocked by everything and wish I was awake. My friend sounds like he was terrified. Previous days we had found decayed animals, 2 dogs, some horses, some cattle, birds, a bat, and some kind of ham buried. Since this place was once farmland, I just assumed the previous owner just left the animals to die or something, but I didn't know how to explain the bat, birds, and ham. This stuff was found near the barn and in the barn. So one day we come back to see if there's any more weird stuff going on. We find 3 pigs on crosses near the house. The pigs were decapitated and the heads were on the ground in front of them. They were wearing makeup, and they had wigs sewn into their heads. My friend tells me he thinks the people we saw the last time were there did it, and was telling me that he thought they might be part of some satanic cult or some other group. Around the crosses and pigs, some of the grounds were burned, a few large circles. He and my friend spent the rest of the day taking down the pigs and burying them in the woods. We go here again to ride some dirt bikes and ATVs, and nothing weird was there when we came. We put the vehicles in the barn because we would come back later in the week. My friend's putting up his ATV and tells me he saw a person in the barn just relaxing on some hay, but it was in the dark in one of the horses or cattle stalls. My friend stood there for a while to see if it was a person, and the man moved his hand in a goodbye kind of way. My friend runs out of the barn and tells me what happens. I go in there because I thought my friend was messing with me. No one is in there, and then when I'm leaving the barn, I see the guy trying to sleep on the 2nd story, and I ask if he's alright, and he tells me he is, and tells me to go away and let him sleep, even though it's my property. I don't want to start any crap with him, so I let him be. My friend says he thinks he is part of the group that's been doing stuff on my property. We go there again about 2 weeks later, and we see from my truck the guy walking out of the barn and talking with 2 guys. One of them pointed my truck, and they all run into the woods. I get my knife and gun, keep it under my seat, and it finally came in use. And I go with my friend to go find the guys to tell them they can't come here anymore, and that it's my private property. I can't find them, but we found that most of them stay inside the greenhouse. We found clothes, books, and dead birds and squirrels. and I'm assuming that's what they ate. There was a pond nearby, so that's probably where they bathed in, or didn't bathe at all. We go to the barn to investigate, and we found books on the second story, an altar, and some tall candles. All of this was out of sight from the ground. We also found stuff like ropes, knives, nails, a hammer, and a mallet. We conclude that all of those guys, they're in the group, and they did all of that weird stuff. We have not been back at that property for months, so we don't know if they're still there or had moved on. The police have searched there before for 2 guys that had kidnapped a 9-year-old too, so those guys might be related to that. Unfortunately, the police found no one there. About 2 years ago, my friends and I found out about an abandoned insane asylum located in Downey, California. Being the curious 17-year-olds that we were, we decided it'd be a good idea to go explore this abandoned facility just to see what we could find inside. So on a Saturday night, we gathered a few more of our friends and made the drive out to Downey so we could explore this building for ourselves. After about 30 minutes of driving, we arrived in Downey and make our way through the city to where the asylum is located. The closer we get, the shadier and shadier the neighborhoods we're passing through become. And after about 15 minutes of driving, we arrived at our destination. We parked the car, climbed through a hole in the fence, and made our way into the building to see what we could find. To be honest, it started out not being too bad. Considering we had about 10 people, we were thinking, what's the worst thing that could happen to a group of 10 people? So we meandered through the building, looking at all the broken furniture scattered throughout the rooms, the patient files thrown upon the floor, and we're pretty much just having a good time looking at what once was this weird mental institution. But this is where things get weird. As we're walking, we of course have a flashlight pointed down the hallway because the power that once was in this building was and is clearly out. But as we're walking with our flashlight pointed ahead of us, and we come to a corner, we see the adjacent wall of the corner light up from what we assumed was another flashlight. And sure enough, we turn the corner, and there's another group of 4 kids. Shady, weird kids. We confront each other, and they ask us if we had been to the slide. We politely answer no because we have no idea what they're talking about, and they tell us that we should follow them. Of course, we decline because we're getting weird vibes from these people, and as they're talking amongst themselves, one of the kids comes up to me with, I kid you not, a solid 6-inch long Bowie knife looking thing. Isn't this cool? Look what I found. As he moves the knife closer to my face, I politely answer what a cool find that is, and we start to back away, telling them that we're going to go explore the roof of the building. Surprisingly, they say all right, and they turn the corner and continue on their way. Alright, now that that was out of the way, I'm seriously beginning to feel weird about being in this place, and about how we're definitely not supposed to be here. So at that point, I say screw it. We need to go to the roof, go down the fire escape, and get out of here. So we make our way to the roof, and we're sitting there plotting our escape. Like I said, people are not supposed to be in the asylum, so they have a police car stationed at the main gate to make sure no one comes in. So as we're up there, we try to figure out the best way to get out of here without getting noticed by the police. That's when my friend sees a fire escape ladder coming down off this higher portion of the roof. We decide that that is probably our best bet. So we grab a small ladder that will be able to boost us up onto this higher portion of the roof. My friend Jonah goes up and immediately turns around so he can help other people out by pulling them up. As I'm getting myself up there, my heart completely sinks. Jonah, did you not see this when you got up here? I whisper. What are you talking about, man? He responds. I'm looking forward, and he slowly turns to see what was pretty much a worse nightmare. There's about 1,500 people sitting in a circle up there surrounding a burning cat or some other dead animal. These guys are talking in tongues and just making noises which seem satanic. As we're both getting down, we get noticed, and they start talking amongst themselves in this weird language. And as soon as we get down, these guys stand up and start sprinting towards us. I tell everyone to ditch the idea of the fire escape and to not worry about the cops. We need to get out of here now. So we start sprinting to this building with this cult in close pursuit behind us. We miraculously make it out of the building and are starting to run across the field to the main gate. And as we're doing so, the cop notices the commotion, turns on his sirens, and comes driving in. Thank God he manages to cut the call off from us. He starts to chase them as we get away safely. Honestly, I can safely say it was the scariest experience of my life. What would we have done if they had taken one of our friends? Would we have to go back in and confront them? I don't know, and I'm glad that it didn't happen. My friend Connor has a girlfriend who lives a few hours away, and her mom reads all her texts, so they generally stick to Skype. Well, after a while, his girlfriend Ellie wants to introduce him to her Skype friends. This is a group of people who met in various places across the internet, who have those awful chats you can't keep up with. Then she introduces him to Jack. Jack is the epicenter of the group. Connor mentions him to me in passing a few times over about a month, and then he finally messages me one night and says, "I need to talk to you." So we talk, and he tells me what Jack's been saying. Jack is what I'd like to refer to as liar, crazy, legit. And I estimate the odds of each of those are 50, 49, 1. See, Jack claimed to be a supernatural being, which I'd normally laugh off, except he's got a group of hapless people convinced of this. And Connor describes the group dynamics, and it's red flags all around for controlling behavior. And, well, that's sort of my speciality, dealing with people like Jack. But Connor doesn't want to stir up trouble because he's non-confrontational. I don't have similar inhibitions. So, one night, C invites me into the group chat, which is ominously dubbed The Truth. Cults have a collective belief in varying levels in something. In this case, the truth is about Jack. The first thing anyone says to me is, "Did you get Jack's permission?" Every alarm bell in my system is going off. Connor and I have both played dumb. Slowly, hesitantly, a few other members of the group, all strangers to me, start saying hello. Not welcoming me, just asking how I know Connor, not trying to explain that the chat is kind of private, just saying tentative hellos. The girl who first demanded to know if Jack gave me permission to join announces she asked Jack if I'm allowed to stay. Connor, meanwhile, is messaging me about group dynamics. The only non-believer Connor knows of is King, who's vocal about his problem with Jack. I talk to King, who tells me that the other person doesn't believe is the girl who challenged me about entering the group. Red flag number 1. Someone who doesn't believe Jack is still the first to challenge outsiders. Cults don't appreciate outsiders. That's about when Jack arrives. He's likable, don't get me wrong. He is good at what he does. I think for about 30 minutes that he's too good for me to be any use. But I'm a writer, so I can commit to a character pretty well, and he buys into my Southern Belle act. Once he invites me to a private chat, I'm immediately told that I can ask him anything without fear of repercussions. Dude lives 600 miles from me. What kind of repercussions could there be? So I talked to King and the girl who challenged me, and it turns out he's doing something else that's seen in cults. He's using threats and fear to get people to obey him. Something about being sold into magical slavery if he doesn't protect them. I'm gonna pause here to say, the people who don't believe Jack are the most emotionally stable ones. There are abuse victims and depressed teenagers in this little group. They're smart, but they have two options. Believe Jack, or lose friends. Anyway, back to the circle of creepy. Jack's Skype mood is going to kill my brother. I inquire. He tells me that his brother stabbed him with a sword and sides with their father, who Jack hates. Half of this guy's lore comes from the Dresden films. For a creepy would-be cult leader, he really sucks at lying. So I mark him down for dysfunctional in real-life family and possible violent tendencies. I then lure Jack into a trap. I won't bore you with details, but I get irrevocable screenshotted proof that he's a lying liar who lies. Not delusional and not legit. I let Jack know the jig is up. As retaliation, he decides he should ban me and Connor from the group. But before he can, I go off on a nice little tangent in the group chat about a Criminal Minds episode where a cult leader kicks out anyone who challenges him, lest the others be swayed. Jack is angry at me. Really angry. Like, hope this idiot can't trace my IP address or I'm dead angry. But it doesn't end there. Oh no. Jack returns to the group chat with a sob story, and I let him stew, because I've been slowly working my way through the group, ripping off the Jack is a liar who lies and manipulates and really shouldn't be talking to this guy. No, really, Band-Aid. I go talk to King. He tells me that his fellow non-believer and challenger has a picture of Jack's ID. Because I believe in having leverage, I do some totally legal digging into this guy who has an unfortunately unique surname. Dear Jack's mom, you should change your Facebook security settings. Some fun facts about Jack. His little brother is a jock. Better looking, mesomorph body, athletic, popular. Jack is none of these. His mom stops talking about her eldest son quite suddenly. No more pictures of Jack. Not a single mention of Jack since he was 18. So I made note of it and moved on with my background check. But then I noticed something. An arrest. Not unusual, except before the arrest date. He and his brother are equally pictured on their mom's Facebook, and then nothing. I can't figure it out until I'm talking to Jack, distracting him and letting him talk to himself in circles. I see his mood again. Gonna kill my brother. Dear God, I think. Remembering that every lie holds a kernel of truth. He actually has a brother he wants to kill. I ask him why he was arrested, even though I feel it in my gut that I'm right. Assault, he says. On whom? On my brother. I need confirmation on a few other things before I present the facts to the group, still called the truth, even as more and more members sit behind their computers marveling at the irony. So I keep talking to him to make sure I had the right Jack, that I'm not dealing with a catfish creep. We video chatted. It is him. Mugshot and ID confirmed. He keeps asking me questions. Where do I live? North of you. What do I do for a living? Consult. How old am I? 17. What's your full name? I wasn't giving that one out. I, like Jack, have one of those last names that are incredibly rare. He could find it if he Googled me. At any point, Jack could do 5 minutes of Googling and find my full name, first, middle, and last. Anyway, I told the group about Jack lying that day, and shut down his manipulative attempts to garner sympathy. Now he says he's dying, and his father's a mobster, and his brother is his adopted brother. Except, there's no one around for this equally ridiculous story. He's trying to convince me. Literally, just me. I live in a room. There is not much to do here for a couple of bored teenagers. You always hear about local urban legends. Every town has one or two. My town is no different. Kentucky has a cult presence. There is a distillery in a remote part of the area. It sits by Kentucky River on a stretch of road out in the middle of nowhere. Kids in the area love to throw parties there. One of my friends, Jay, was one of these kids. Jay moved to our school in the middle of the year. He knew everyone, and everyone knew him. During a dull math lecture, Jay and I started talking about local myths surrounding the area. There are quite a few. Jay starts telling me about a distillery he used to throw parties at. He says that he's heard rumors that a cult meets there and continues to tell me weird experiences he's had there. Everything from dolls being nailed to the walls inside the distillery to a homeless guy shooting at him down there. I decided I wanted to check it out. Jay, a few friends, and I decided to go to the distillery the following weekend to explore the area around it. Our plan was for me to drive my car and Jay to drive his car. We had a total of 8 people going with us, and for me to follow Jay there. Friday comes and the whole day at school, we are getting psyched up for our trip. At about 10 that night, we all meet and saddle up. I follow Jay in his car with my 4 passengers, and Jay drives his car with 2 passengers. We drove for what seemed like forever, about 45 minutes. I didn't even know if we were in the same town. Jay turned his car onto a 2-lane road. This road seemed pretty normal, no sign of anything out of the ordinary. I keep following Jay's car down this road for about another 5 minutes. That's when things start getting weird. The road got smaller, and we passed a street sign that just had the word hell spray painted on it. We passed a couple of houses that had weird red lights on the inside, and a few houses that looked like they were falling apart. A little further, we passed the distillery and took a left up another holler. This road was even crazier. It was almost straight up a mountain with no guardrail on the side. If we were to swerve off this road, we were dead. We get to the top of the hill and keep following this road until we come upon a gravel driveway. And Jay stopped his car. "This is it," he said as he got out of his car and walked over to mine. I noticed some strange things right off the bat. The driveway led up to a huge house surrounded by trees. In the trees, I noticed ropes hanging from them. They looked like nooses. There were signs posted everywhere about shooting anyone who came onto the property. I also noticed a weird rock formation in the clearing of trees off to the side of the road, almost like a stone hedge type deal. After talking to Jay for a little while about the route we were taking to go back home, we noticed lights coming down the drive. A few of them. "Drive, drive," Jay shouted as he took off back to his car. I immediately floored it. I left Jay and his passenger in the dust. I almost hit 3 deer that jumped out in front of my car. My buddy in the back seat started asking us if we had seen those things behind us. I asked him what he was talking about, and he said that it was what looked like dogs in the road behind us. He said that they looked like dogs, but they were way too big to be dogs. We got back to town and stopped at a Waffle House to rehash what had just happened. Jay said that he had seen a few dirt bikes and ATVs coming down the drive and didn't want to be around when they got there. Could this have been the cult everyone was talking about? I may never know. For more bone-chilling narratives that will keep you at the edge of your seat, subscribe to my channel. By doing so, you'll gain a still-growing collection of real-life horror stories that will both captivate and energize your senses. Join the community of fellow enthusiasts, and together, let's explore the eerie unknown. Subscribe now, and prepare for more terror-themed true tales that will leave you craving more.